Now you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, cool, cool. It was actually really good. Meeting you was actually really good. Just easy conversation when you get two ballers together. It's kind of all.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot of great apps out there, right? So you have Hoop Maps,
Okay.
which is another platform to connect basketball players. You have it's another one that I like. Team Snap
Okay.
was
Yep.
another good one. Then there was a couple that kind of fell through the cracks, and for me, we just want to give basketball players opportunities to meet up, play basketball,
Yeah.
at all levels, right? So, um, and what I realized in certain communities, it's not as easy to find a trainer. It's not as easy, to find a game. A typical basketball hour is not like 9 to 5, right? Like
Mm-mm.
working is 9 to 5. Our hours are like 10 to 2,
All right.
right? 9 to 1,
Right.
right? But if
45
you,
hours.
right, that's basketball hours,
Yeah, they don't know that. Nowadays,
right?
kids think an hour in the gym is, so much. I'm like,
You
they
know,
don't.
and on average, that's about the time you're gonna in the summertime do your open runs,
Right. Right.
train, unless you're gonna get there a little earlier. But if you have to have a job, you're not able to compete at those hours. You got to work 9 to 5,
Right.
right?
Unless you have like a lunchtime hoops or something like that.
Exactly, right?
Right.
So we just want to provide, we want to be a resource. So that's what X versus X Sports is. If you go to xversusxsports.com now, you can register early. The app is coming out at the end of April,
Okay.
2020. So
And that's going to be all different cities, right? All over the U.S.
all over the world.
All over the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really all over the world. So you'll be able to really communicate with the basketball community. And we also have we have an agenda to push sports business education also,
Mm.
which is
That's
people.
important.
Yeah, it's very important. Even like what you're doing, what I'm doing sports business.
Right.
You're doing sports business,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to continue to, you want to help create a pipeline so so you can get more clients, so I can get more users, right? So you can get more visits and views,
Right.
right? And then
That's why.
also, you said
Yeah. Go
what?
ahead.
No, you
Go
can
ahead.
go. No,
Well,
and
that's
I was
why I
saying,
like
I was just
the.
going to say, I'll just finish up. I was just saying, and also for people like yourself to find the community,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, and yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. That's so. One thing that I'm actually doing with that is I'm starting my new TV show. It's called Outside the Huddle, and it's a show centered around sports, lifestyle, and culture. So similar to LeBron James Barbershop show a little bit, how he can add on multiple different perspectives. So he doesn't just have one person from one industry that's talking about a specific issue, right? Now, say in Outside the Huddle, we want to talk about one day women's inequality of pay, between the NBA and the WNBA, which is a significant issue. I would make sure I had either a current NBA and current WNBA player or, retired NBA and retired WNBA player, just so I can have both perspectives that revolve around that issue. And so an issue like that, I could also have somebody that's not an athlete as well, right? That is a fan of sports, watches sports, is engaged in the sports, environment, but just doesn't have that athletic perspective. So now, all perspectives are heard that have an influence within the issue, right?
right.
And not only will this show have sports conversations, it's going to be, and my idea stemmed a little bit from when that reporter told LeBron James to just shut up and dribble, because athletes should be able to talk about politics and the environment, religion or education, and when they start talking outside of their world, right, it's like, oh no, stop, just do what you're supposed to do, which is
Well,
just
that
play.
shut up and dribble. I haven't really watched that comment. I
Right.
actually did a show, and I think it was for LeBron James's production company.
Okay.
And I didn't know what I was doing. They were just asking me questions, and it wound up being on Shut Up and Dribble.
Okay.
But that was a really interesting comment because basketball players are extremely smart. Basketball players play basketball so much and love it so much that we don't always put our efforts in academics or politics because we're
Mhm.
only focused on basketball because we
Right.
chose to focus
Yeah.
on basketball. And when you choose to get into politics, that's okay too.
Yeah. Well, and I think like up to a certain point in life, basketball can be a token to get into different areas of life, right? So if you want to go to college, right, you have options. Here's your basketball option to go to school for free,
Right.
right? But then it gets hard after your college experience, right? Because only a select few either go on to play professionally, some coach or go to training like myself, or what I like to use now is the word sports advocate. So almost like what you're doing too is advocating for sports conversations and to improve the sports environment and industry, but also to
Absolutely.
open it up and broaden it more. And going back to your app, and your entire program with X versus X, it also helps because we're now filling that gap from college to professional, right? Because it is just, okay, when you're a college athlete, you graduate, you can either go play overseas, get your contract with WNBA, NBA, and that's it. There's not even a G League for the WNBA for women's players.
Wow.
So there's a fine line, it's one or the other. You don't get these choices that X versus X can provide. Certain leagues, different tournaments in upcoming cities, fundraising events, 3-on-3 tournaments, like the big three, something similar like that. Like X versus X can really provide and open and fill more gaps for basketball players. It's not just professional, and if you don't make it, then you're done,
Right.
right? That
Right.
was for me. It was like, I lost my identity in that process. Seriously. When I graduated from Villanova, I had opportunities to play overseas, but the money's just not there, right? At the end of the day, I felt more beneficial to make more money doing what I'm doing now, training, influencing on social media.
You're still a professional basketball player, or you want to say just you're in professional basketball because you're providing a service and you get paid to do what you do,
Right.
right? So,
Right. Well, I never went to a professional team or league.
but you're
I
professional. You're a professional
Oh, how would you say that?
because you're creating a business. That's a professional,
Okay.
right? So you're a sports business pro.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, creating your own
I
business.
didn't consider myself that before this
You,
conversation, but yeah.
you
I
absolutely are. You absolutely are because we play basketball in the NBA to make money, right? We want to make money, provide for our family, on
Right.
top of the passion that we have. And as a professional, they say be professional, right? And that's
Mhm.
what you're doing. You're using basketball, the knowledge that you have, you're passing it to other kids, creating opportunities for them, and you're getting paid for your service and well deserved because you have a resume, you
Right.
have a background, you have experience, right? So
Yeah.
you're a pro.
Right. I didn't look at it like that. That's super important. Um,
So
yeah.
so when you was coming up, like how like what was your dreams like outside of basketball? Was it always basketball? Or was it something else?
Oh, well, it was always WNBA dreams, from a little kid, all
Wow.
that stuff. I still, even my senior year of college, I was like, will I go to the WNBA? And honestly, the program that I was in didn't really hasn't really focused on turning their players into professional athletes,
Right, right,
right?
right.
Rare. So the focus wasn't there. I've had very elite trainers in my experience, which is why I've been able to separate myself from the rest of, go on to that high elite level. But it was just, for some reason, it wasn't there to go professionally. Like I said, I had the opportunities, pay wasn't enough. And then I, tied in my knee surgeries. And if a team would even want somebody that's kind of injured in a sense already, or has predicaments and limitations in a way. But and then, my Instagram platform really boomed when I was in college. And I
Okay.
was really young. I was about 19 when everything kind of flooded. And my school actually didn't like this. They restricted me in many ways, and wanted to make sure everything was appropriate, because now Villanova's name was attached to
Of
what I was
course.
doing. Right. And so when I went to work on the West Coast, everybody's like, oh, build your audience. This is great. More followers. Let's go. Love it. And on the East Coast back at school, we were like, oh no, we got to shut this down. Like we have to maintain everything, safety, blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
so, And then at the same time, I'm getting business deals when I'm 19, 20 years old. All these companies want to work with me. And so now, but NCAA, you know, you can't do any of these things as an athlete. So I was very limited in terms of what my school allowed me to do, all the business opportunities that I had to shut down in a
Right.
sense. But I made sure that I kept those relationships. You know, I
Mhm.
was like, I have 2 years, one more year left of school. In May, when I graduate, let's talk about this soon. And so now, you know, I've just been able to connect with so many people, professionals, like other social media influencers like Gary Vee. Literally went to his entire media company, spoke with his assistant, hopefully, you know, made a really nice relationship there.
Yeah, he
Um,
has a really robust media company.
oh yeah, and he really knows how to, you know, work with individuals like myself that are up and coming, you know, youth people who want to pursue entrepreneurship the way he does, capitalize on your name, build on it,
Right. Yeah.
um, which is so great. I mean, what he's done is huge. But then also, I've been able to work with a ton of companies. I work with this nutrition bar called Nova Bar. I
Okay.
work with a couple CBD companies, which are crucial for
So
me.
when you're working with them, are you sponsoring them, endorsing them? Are they sponsoring you? Well,
Yeah,
they're
so
sponsoring you.
in the early stages, what they tried to do is really incorporate my social media channels and audiences. So it's almost like brand ambassadorship
Okay.
program where I post some content, whether that's picture or video with the product, using it. I might have a discount code in there for the customers to use to get percentages off when they purchase their product. Um, but I've even said to some companies, like, that's what everybody does, is want to use a discount code, get a social media influencer, and, you know, just have them post their product online.
Yeah.
That's it's not enough, that because that's what everybody else is. That's the most common social media marketing tactic that everybody does.
Right.
Just gets an influencer to post their product with a discount code, and boom, they expect all these results, and
Yeah,
that's
that
not.
didn't really work. I don't like that type of deal for influencers.
Yeah, it doesn't
If
work
you're
at
coming
all.
up, that's okay. Or if you have
Right.
a large following
Hmm.
on social media, that's okay. You know, but if you have a name but not a real social media, you're not really engaged.
Right.
You're never gonna make money
No,
with those type of deals.
not at all. I mean, I believe in live active marketing. So like being at events with the product, you know, speaking about the product, maybe at uh, you know, a platform where people are engaged, you have a live audience, you're bringing on, you know, for CBD, for example, you're going to bring on real professional athletes who are
Right, right,
using the
right.
product,
What do you
you
think
know,
about
which is,
CBD and versus THC in sports?
yeah, well, I think CBD is amazing for all athletes, whether you have an injury or not. You know, I think it's just a standard recovery form that you could use for your body no matter what. Um, and female basketball players are limited.
Right.
I can say from this experience, the most treatment that I ever had was ice and stem and maybe a Hivamat.
Okay.
Um, so you're looking at me like, how is that possible? You know, D1 institution. How is that? You know, you should expect to get more recovery treatments. So I turned to CBD on my own, right? And I only use the cream or a body butter so I can physically put it on my knee joints. And I had pain every day, chronic pain every day. And this CBD, put it on for 2 to 3 minutes, pain goes away. I kid
Yeah.
you not. So
CBD
it
is
was
amazing. I
better.
love CBD.
Yeah, it was better than any treatment that I was getting from a traditional standpoint in terms of my institution. So I was like, why would I not just use this CBD cream that actually works? I feel the results right away,
Right, right.
and you know, it was just better. It didn't take. I didn't have to lay on a table for 30 minutes to an hour after practice.
So what do you think about THC? You know, so a lot of the pro athletes they want the
Yeah,
CBD with the THC, and they prefer to smoke it versus
right.
a pill or an edible. So in terms of performance, do you think CBD versus THC, is it a place for both in sports, or
I
you
definitely
lean?
think it is. I definitely think it is 100%. I'm a huge advocate for both of them. And, you know, not only should they be for physical reasons? We're people. When people see you play on TV, all they see is your jersey and your high status name. At the end of the day, they're not looking at you as a regular person. And so it's important to attach regular people problems to professional athletes in terms of anxiety, depression, mental health, eating disorders. So that's all mental, not a physical side, which is one reason why I think it should be allowed for, first of all, anybody to use, especially when you're an adult. And then it comes down to it, professional athletes, that's their job, right? They commit to that every day. They're adults that have ownership of their job and their work environment. So, people right now are saying, we're not going to go to the games high. All NBA athletes are like, we're not going to smoke weed on the way to the game. We're not going to be blitzed while we're playing. And
Well,
that's the same for alcohol. They have access to alcohol and drinking. You don't get tested for alcohol. You don't You get caught with it on social media. It's not like you're going to get fined or anything.
And you're not going to be drinking alcohol like before the game.
Right. And if you do, then that's on you as an adult.
Absolutely. That's on you.
And that's on your boss and your teammates within your work environment to either help you or tell you, no, stop doing this.
Right.
And I think it's a top-down protocol. But at the end of the day, everybody's an adult and they should be able to do their own things. But THC, I think, can help from a physical standpoint as well as mental issues and mental health. And, if it works for you, it does. If it doesn't, who cares? Who cares if you smoke and I don't, as long as you don't bring it into the work environment and it doesn't affect your activity and your focus and concentration levels, then I think it's fine. I mean, even the MLB doesn't even test for it.
Right.
Like they said MLB players are allowed to smoke marijuana, or they didn't even say smoke marijuana, to use marijuana within their practice, and they're not getting tested for it at the same time.
Right.
The NFL said, okay, we're still testing for marijuana, but if a player fails, it's not as bad as a punishment. Right.
We're still testing, but it's not going to be the NFL kind of late to the game.
Yeah. I mean, NBA is super late, but what is the point of testing and then saying, the fine and punishment isn't going to be as bad? Just completely rid it. Yeah. Like even getting drug tested in college, you have THC and then here comes all these hardcore street drugs. And it's like, why are they even kind of associated on the same level?
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
Like alcohol is 10 times worse for your body, for your recovery as an athlete, but we're allowed to do it and we have the most access to it.
As an athlete, when I indulge in marijuana versus alcohol, I usually perform worse when I would drink alcohol the night before. So I just totally stopped drinking alcohol.
Oh yeah, it's terrible from a recovery standpoint.
You're not going to recover. I mean, when you get older, you're not going to recover, and you're more susceptible to injury.
Right, and even in college, and I know I can vouch for a ton of athletes, even in professional. You want to go out with your team because it's the only night that you have that you're open for your schedule, right? And you want to go out and with your team, and the only option you have is to drink and go crazy and party because everybody else is doing it.
Right.
But we don't do that. We're fine with chilling in the house, putting our feet up, watching some TV, listening to music, and chilling, smoking.
Right.
Not going outside, not engaging in ridiculous behavior. And not waking up the next morning feeling out of it, your body's all whacked up.
How do you encourage your kids to stay on the straight and narrow, work hard, and it's not all basketball? Do you teach them about focus, your career, education, life after basketball? What are some things that you implement during your sessions and training sessions?
Yeah, I always push character first. The character that you have on the court should be the same character that you carry off the court, whether that's being applied in a drill or just respect. I am hard on my clients. If the door opens and they hear a noise and their eyes for 1 second look over there, that's a distraction.
That's a
You have to have your eyes locked at all times on the coach when they're talking. Don't dribble the ball when they're talking. So there's always those basic basketball elements that you always, as a trainer and coach should, and a parent, attach on the court. And then, it's always hard to teach inner city kids that don't have the same opportunities or resources or influence and leadership that trickles down.
right.
And you're telling a kid, you're trying to tell a kid to behave, or to see a vision of going to college one day when they might not even go to high school or play for their high school team because they have to go get a job.
Yeah.
Right. So it's hard. To be completely honest, I don't know what I would say to a kid that has to bring in money for their house, but then also wants to play on a sports team and try and get that scholarship to college.
Yeah, and that's a problem that I've always addressed when talking about the youth, when going on television and trying to tell people to do the right thing and be a role model.
Right.
And then I got to tell another kid in a different situation on how to protect his family
Right.
while playing basketball, and how you should go about trying to eat while playing basketball. Everybody, right? So that's been something where I'm just really head on, and I don't give the politically correct answer to a kid in that circumstance. I give the answer that they should hear, in that circumstance, to the best of my ability. So I mean, it's really good that your understanding of the different environments people come from.
It would be very easy to answer that question if we had government funded programs or institutions where it almost like public and private school.
Right.
You get to, if you can't pay for a private, specific religion institution, then you always will have that public government funding school that you can go to in your area.
Right.
School is an option. School is not an option. Right. So now let's attach this to the sports industry. The sports industry is large and strong enough to be able to have this in the same way. Right. And I don't know whether that comes from investors or athletes or programs or like leagues. But there should definitely be, almost like guaranteed teams or leagues or centers where sports is a process that will help athletes continue in life, right? So, even within educational systems, the sports section should be better monitored in terms of how they're educating students on college, on playing sports, on, getting good grades to play sports and all that stuff, studying the game, commitment to sports, being active, nutrition, taking care of your body, mental health in sports. It should be closely monitored and definitely better suited for younger athletes who don't have these resources or whose parents won't push them, or they don't have the financial necessities to get into these places.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's why we're here. That's why we continue to do what we're doing. I would love to do a part 2 with you. We should talk about a lot of different things in sports.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's all these conversations. One conversation will lead to another. That's the best thing about these conversations, is that it will never end. And especially in times like this where you're on the West Coast and I'm literally on the East Coast in Philadelphia, we can get on a computer like this, record an entire video, and have these sports conversations for other people to listen to.
Absolutely. I think it's really good and informative, and there's going to be some kid out there that's going to be watching and get inspired, or at least get some information. So I think it'll be really cool. Before we leave, I think we should tell people what we're doing. You should tell people what you're doing and how to find you and everything.
Yeah. So my new TV show is on the works, Outside the Huddle, similar to the conversations that we had today, bringing on athletes like yourself, different influencers within the sports world, and then all kinds of sports fans that are centered around sports conversations, lifestyle, and culture. You guys can find me on my Instagram, Adriana Hahn. And I'm currently in the website making process for adrianahahn.com, which will have Outside the Huddle. I also have my own training and basketball program called Hahn Hoops, which will be having some upcoming summer camps, clinics, and individual sessions all over the East Coast. And I'll be looking out for you guys and for more video content I'll be putting out there from a sports section, and just building relationships with Metta and this too. You'll see me doing more of that. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. And definitely look out for me on xverseXsports.com, at xverseXsports. That's XVSX Sports, at xverseXsports everywhere. It was great chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you, Metta. You too. It was awesome. It was
Absolutely.
great. Looking forward to the next one.
Me too. Absolutely.
All right, cool. Thanks.
And send me your email. I'll send you the video.
Okay,